Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are enjoying your Tuesday so far. Thank you so much for joining us today on our From Waste to Resources webinar series. Today, we are talking more about how to have a green holiday, so how to make sustainable alternatives and how to lead a more sustainable holiday into the new year. We are joined today with Columbus Green Spot. Dave Celebrezze is joining us today, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So just a couple little tips and tricks to help make your experience a little better for the webinar session today. The GoToWebinar is not as familiar to many people as the Zoom series, but on the GoToWebinar, if you ever one point in time see your screen disappear, I want you to look for that blue snowflake. So that blue snowflake, click on that, and that will reappear the presentation in front. There's also a control panel. On the control panel at the top, there is an orange arrow. If you click on that orange arrow, a list of options will appear within the control panel to enhance your experience. All right, so the two most important features within the control panel, we have the questions and chat box. So that is how you will ask questions throughout this webinar today. So feel free to type those in at any point in time. I will be addressing all the questions to Dave at Columbus Green Spot or myself at the very end of the webinar. Everyone is on mute throughout the duration of today's session, just as a friendly reminder. And then there is one handout that we are sharing today. This is the slides from today's presentation. If you double click on the handout section, it will download the handout to your computer. And then you are welcome, it's in a PDF format, you're welcome to share that with friends, share that with coworkers, whoever may be. And if you're having a hard time downloading the handout, you can always email me afterwards. My email is in your email from the registration for this webinar. So real quick, I think I forgot to introduce myself, guys. I'm sorry. My name's Amy Densborn. I'm SWACO's education specialist. And I'm really tasked with educating the public on the importance of all things waste reduction, recycling, and composting. So, and this webinar is being hosted by SWACO. And so we help to manage the waste stream in Franklin County. So if you live outside of Franklin County, much of this information today will still apply to you, but I just wanted to briefly introduce what we do as an organization. So we help to manage the waste stream in a way that helps to divert materials from the landfill. And so we do that by offering a range of services and programs around recycling, household hazardous waste, regular recyclable materials from your home, hard to recycle materials such as e-waste and tires. We have grants to help nonprofits, communities, and schools recycle more and reduce their waste. And then we do have composting programs out there for yard waste and food waste diversion. And so I'm not going to go over every program and service that SWACO provides. I do encourage you, if you're interested in learning more about these opportunities, to check out swaco.org. So we're really fortunate to collaborate with sustainability-minded organizations such as Columbus Green Spot. They help make our homes, our businesses, and our community a greener place to live. So now I'm going to turn it over to Dave Celebrezze to tell us a little bit more about his organization and how you can contribute to a greener future here in Central Ohio.
Great. Can you hear me, Amy?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us. First and foremost, we always appreciate collaborating with SWACO. You've been great partners in the past and will be in the future and are in the present. So really appreciate this opportunity. And for those of you who all don't know what Green Spot is, it's a program that inspires, educates, recognizes, and really embraces the community on sustainability and what they can do to live a little bit more sustainably. So we have a menu of options that folks can choose from to conserve and protect water, conserve energy, reduce, reuse, recycle, and green up their transportation. We have a whole program with many kind of sub-programs under that. When you join, you get a lot of benefits such as a green spot decal. You have access to your own personalized e-dashboard to track what you're doing to be green. We also offer, some of our business members offer our household members discounts on various services and things like that. We also have, we provide a framework to think about that sustainability. We have more than 20,000 Green Spot members here. I think we're at 23,181. I did the numbers here yesterday. But if you're interested, check out the website, columbusgreenspot.org, and you can sign up that way.
Thanks, Dave. Why we're all here today is to share some easy solutions to help cut back on the amount of waste that you do generate during the holidays. So just by adjusting your purchasing habits, you can make a big impact on the environment. According to the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, approximately 25% more trash is generated from Thanksgiving until the new year. This means an extra 25 million tons, of waste is created, or about 1 million extra tons per week. It really doesn't have to be that way. The best way to have a more sustainable holiday season is to simplify, which will often reduce your cost, your stress, and your overall waste. And if you want to purchase gifts for others, look for those items with minimal to no packaging, and second best, packaging that can be recycled. So let's first start off with decorations. It is a fun time to decorate our houses indoors and outdoors, whatever holidays you celebrate, but ultimately some of those decorations may not be sourced in the most environmentally friendly way. So let's first start with the real tree versus an artificial tree. So the research is somewhat complicated when it comes to which one's better for the environment. There's a variety of factors that come into play. So for example, how long will you own and reuse that artificial tree? If you can find one that is domestically manufactured, a lower carbon footprint, and you can commit to using that tree for at least a decade, then using an artificial tree is an okay choice. You enjoy the smell of a real tree in your front yard and in your house, or maybe in your front yard too. I know people that make wildlife trees, and they put them out and they put berries and nuts and stuff on them for the wildlife. If you're going to buy a real tree, try to find one locally grown. So support a local farmer and make it as close to your house as you possibly can. And then this is the most important component of the real tree. When you are finished with it, don't just chuck it in the trash. Organic material in the landfill creates methane gas. Powerful greenhouse gas, really effective at trapping heat, contributes to climate change. Instead, see if your community has a tree recycling program where you can place your tree at the curb and that tree will be picked up and turned into mulch. If you have wreaths and other sorts of greenery as well in your house, you can place those at the curb for the pickup event or take them to like Hertz Brothers or Ohio Mulch. Just make sure that the wreaths and the garland and anything else that you use is free of metal and plastics. And then what about all of those string lights? So maybe you have been holding on to your string lights for a while because you don't know where to take them because they're broken and you're not for sure the proper way to recycle them. They do not belong in your curbside recycling bin. They actually are classified as a tangler. They'll get wrapped around the equipment and they'll shut machines down. You can instead take them to places like Goodwill and Accurate IT for recycling. There are a couple communities who are also hosting drop-off events for collecting broken string lights for recycling. So if you live in one of the communities listed on the slide, Grove City, Bexley, Upper Arlington, Hilliard, or Dublin, I would encourage you to check with your local service department to see how you can bring your lights to be recycled. So maybe you're in the market for new Christmas lights. Maybe you're in the market for new holiday lights. Try to consider buying LED. Yes, they will be more expensive, but think about the long-term investment. So they're 90% more efficient, and they're going to last a lot longer than your typical, lights that you get for really cheap. So when one bulb goes out, the entire strand doesn't go black. So don't be like Clark Griswold from the Christmas Vacation movie and go back double checking all of your lights because one went missing. This is also going to save energy and save you money on your electricity bill. So, and I also recommend maybe attaching them to a timer. So that way the lights are, they maybe come on at dusk and they go off at, midnight or 1 o'clock or whatever time you want to set them to. Less for you to remember to have to do, right? And then they're automatic at that point. So also, what's up? Who doesn't like handmade and secondhand decorations from kids and other loved ones? I still have some of my handmade ornaments from when I was a kid, and I still get a kick out of them. So you know the ones I'm talking about, the painted popsicle sticks, the frames for pictures, and the vintage ornaments. So if you have those, keep those around. This is it's a great way to make your holiday unique. And just like I said before, we can recycle our, compost our Christmas tree. We can also do the same thing with like wreaths and garlands. Make sure that it's free of metal and it's free of plastic before you place it out on the curb to be picked up to be turned into mulch. And I'll turn it over to Dave now.
Great, thanks, Amy. Can you hear me all right? Cool.
I can hear you.
Yeah, real quick on the lights, we have, our strings of lights, we brought them out. And on one of the strings, it was like half of the lights worked and half of them didn't, except the one at the very end was at like the death rattle for lights because it would blink very slowly. So we still keep them up. They last about 5 years or so. And once they finally do give up the ghost, we'll end up recycling them, taking them to Akron IT or one of those other places you mentioned. But I hope everybody's having a good holiday season. It seems like the weather has finally turned to that Columbus December weather, very cold, and start thinking about gift giving and what to get loved ones and friends and office mates and all that type of thing. So one thing, and you can see right here on the screen, is supporting local stores. So Columbus, we are very fortunate that we have a ton of local businesses here. And looking one of them up, seeing if they have something that one of your loved ones would like. There's a couple of things you could do online, like by going to Etsy and searching Columbus. You could probably, on Facebook, there's the different forums. You could probably find some local artists that way as well. Or maybe it's getting a gift card to a restaurant, like maybe your brother or sister's favorite restaurant that's here locally. Again, it's just kind of bringing it home and thinking a little bit more locally. Now, some of the other things you can use is, actually, I do have one, getting loved ones, like maybe a basket of environmentally friendly materials. So maybe a reusable water bottle, reusable straws, all those type of things. Maybe it's even getting them like reusable cleaning materials. When I say that, refillable, I guess is a better term to use. So there's a number of places you can see on the screen in town where you can go in there, you can purchase. If you don't have a container, they have glass containers you can get, and you can fill up, like if you need dish soap, for example, or laundry detergent. And that way you're not using that single-use plastic container that's going to be around for hundreds of years when we're only going to use it for maybe weeks. So this is a way to be a little bit more green. Something else is music. Who doesn't like music? Such a wide variety of music out there. Make a playlist for a loved one. I'm actually in the process of doing that for a couple of my nieces and nephews, of putting together Dave's, right now it's top 600 playlist. I need to whittle that down a little bit, but it's a really cool gift, and it could expand musical horizons too. And that's something too where you can even let people that, your family members know that, hey, don't worry about getting me a gift. If you want, just let me know your top 10 bands. It's really neat. If you play a musical instrument, maybe write a song or perform, you know, on one of the holiday nights, you know, some of those holiday music things. Better you than me, because I can't do too much of that stuff, but I might have the opposite effect. It might scare them. Something else that's kind of cool is creating coupons. So maybe it is like, you know, I'll scoop the cat boxes for the next month. You know, I'll take your car to get an oil change to save you time. You know, I'll do the dishes for the next week. You know, things like that. So there's a whole number of things that don't cost a lot of money, actually have a lot of more meaning, I think, than just getting you know, a gift at, you know, your big box store. All right, next slide. So something else, and this kind of goes with that playlist, maybe give the gift of an experience. So again, Columbus, Franklin County, we have a number of great cultural institutions. We have COSI, we have Ohio History Center, Museum, the Columbus Museum of Art, we have the Thurber Center. I know I'm leaving a whole bunch out, but you get the idea. Columbus Symphony. We also have fantastic city parks and metro parks. In fact, the Quarry Trail just opened up, I believe, one of the Franklin County metro parks. And if you have, I haven't been yet, but a lot of my friends have been going and posting pictures online, and it looks amazing. So maybe that's a gift that you give a family member, like, hey, I'll drive you out there. We'll make a day of it. You know, bring a lunch. So there's those experiences that you could have, or maybe it's if you know what their favorite band is, and their band is coming to town, maybe get them a ticket to that. So there's a whole lot of different experiences that you think about that might be appropriate for a loved one. Something else is if you're a cook, make some cookies, you know, make some, you know, make a cake or something like that to give to a loved one. If you're like, well, if you're like me, you know, that would be like, you know, doing some, you know, ramen noodle thing, but I'm sure you're a better cook than I am. So that's something else that you can do is make food for somebody. If you do get a gift and there is batteries not included, check out the rechargeable batteries. They last a lot longer and they reduce waste versus the single-use batteries. You can see on the screen there, there's a number of places that sell materials that are made out of recycled content, and that's important because we want to close that loop, right? We recycle things, those things get broken down to the raw materials. That raw material gets turned into other things, but they need to have a buyer on that other end. So by purchasing materials that are made out of recycled material, you're helping close that loop and support a circular economy. Also with clothing, look for the natural fibers, look for, again, the recycled content. The Good On You app is a great one to help you decide what type of clothes to get. So just a whole bunch of options out there. All right, next slide. Uh-oh, it looks like I'm turning it back over to Amy for a minute.
Yeah, this brings us to our first trivia question for the day. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll, and if folks want to participate and tell me which answer you think is correct. So all wrapping paper is recyclable. Do we think that is true or false? Give it your best guess. Looks like about 80 people votes in, 80% of the people in. I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. So far, everybody did say that is false, and that is absolutely correct. So not all wrapping paper is recyclable. Most of it is, but what you're looking for paper that doesn't have any foil or any plastic or glitter on it. So you're looking for that paper that is just pure paper that can be recycled in your curbside bin, as well as things like gift bags. Paper gift bags are also included. And then the other thing to keep in mind is tissue paper is not accepted in our program. That paper has already been recycled at its maximum amount of time. Paper can only be recycled about 7 times before its fibers get too short and thin to be recycled into something new. So the tissue paper could be composted, or it should be discarded in your regular trash. And I'll just turn it back over to Dave to tell us a little bit more about gift wrap and packaging.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, so for gift wrapping, if you have a lot of paper that's going in the recycling bin, maybe use it for wrapping paper. It's a way to reduce your cost. You could, if there's a blank side, you could draw an illustration or something like that on it. Be creative. I remember when I was growing up, we had for our textbooks, we had the brown paper grocery bag that we would use as a cover for the textbooks. Now, whenever I get a brown paper bag, I kind of hold on to it and then I use it to wrap a gift. Or for some of you all who know me, like sometimes I get very lazy and I just give you the box that the thing came in. But hey, it's wrapped, right? And it's reducing waste. So those are some things to think about. We mentioned like the gift baskets earlier. To get a cool decorative basket. Maybe it's something where if you're getting, this was a present that one of my family members got a while ago. They got a 5-gallon bucket and then they got a tool set that went on the 5-gallon bucket. And that was the gift, that was the package. So it's kind of cool that everything about it can be used more than once. You can get towels for people, bed sheets, things like that. Again, they're going to get multiple uses out of that, which is great. Hot oven mitts, like the list really is long. When you start looking around your house and you're like, what are some things that you have that you reuse on a regular basis? Those can be gift ideas as well. All right, and the last one on here, I love that hide and seek instead of using wrapping paper. So maybe hide something throughout if you have kids, hide something throughout the house. Let the kids know, if they're hot or they're cold, if they're near it or not near it, and kind of make an experience for them. They'll remember that when they grow up. All right, next slide. So shipping. So as you see, 500,000 trees, catalog, I should say 500,000 trees become catalogs. And really, do we really need to do that? We probably get away with recycling and having that recycled material go towards those catalogs instead of trees, because we know trees provide help reduce the urban heat island effect. They're great for wildlife. They're great for shading your home. They're great for climate. The list is long. But if you are ordering from someplace, think about contacting them and letting them know, like if they have less packaging. Like there's a place that I contacted that they had shaving cream and they used plastic to wrap it in, and I asked them if there's a way I could get that in butcher paper instead. They were like, yeah, that's not a problem. So the whole thing was a little bit more green by doing it that way. So you could ask companies to ship the packaging using paper instead of the packing peanuts, which are just, they get everywhere. And now if you do get packing peanuts, or if you do get those bubble wrap and you're like, I have no use for that. So with those, you can take them to, like, I think UPS stores, or some UPS stores will take that packaging for you, so it gets reused. You could send an e-card instead of a real card. You could also opt out of junk mail by going to the catalogchoice.org. All right, next slide. All right, so for Amazon, obviously a lot of us shop at Amazon, either a lot or a little. If you do, there are some things you can do to reduce the packaging waste. So when you go to checkout, if you place an order that is more than one delivery date, you can select an option to have the order be shipped in as few shipments as possible, rather than having each of those arrive at your doorstep day after day. This might take a little bit longer to ship the entire order, but again, it's really reducing that packaging waste. And you're cutting down on the emissions from the vehicle that they're using to get to your place. Something else you can do is you can search for their frustration-free packaging program. Some items can be shipped in their own packaging without the need for an additional Amazon packaging. Not every item is like that, but some are, so you can check that out. Also, the Amazon has developed alternatives to the non-recyclable dual material packaging. And you go ahead and click. And the plastic bag padded bubblers are actually made out of the same plastic film that plastic bags and produce bags and other stretch plastics. So they can actually be recycled back at places like Kroger, Giant Eagle, I think Target, maybe even Lowe's has a barrel where you put the plastic bags where they'll get recycled. And then the other new envelope that it's 100% recyclable and is kind of a paper padded mailers. And the padding on the inside is comprised of an expansive blue material and doesn't contain any polystyrene or other plastics. Now, these paper envelopes can be deposited in any curbside recycling bin. Great, so Amy, I think I'm turning it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dave. That was all very helpful. So really, we can recycle a lot of our materials. Now, it may take you a little bit of extra work to maybe they won't be able to go in curbside. You might have to take them to the grocery store or take them to another outlet, but there is a place for most of our items to be recycled. So this brings me to the basics of recycling, okay? So the 5 categories of materials that we can recycle here in Franklin County. This information applies to you if you have access to curbside recycling or if you take your materials to a SWACO recycling location. We have over 50 locations all throughout Franklin County. You can find the location closest to your home or to your work at recycleright.org. So real quick, the 5 categories of materials, plastic bottles, jugs, and tubs, all paper, including magazines and newspaper and cardboard. So if you're ordering a lot of big items for the holidays and you don't have space in your curbside bin for those large cardboard boxes, go ahead and take them to one of SWACO's permanent facilities. We can also do carton containers. That's any type of carton, whether it's Tetra Pak, Gable Top, they're all included. Metal cans, and then glass bottles and jars. That's a lot of material that we can keep out of the landfill. And then anybody got styrofoam lying around their house? So maybe you're purchasing some new big electronics, maybe you're getting some toys that come with styrofoam packaging. Hilliard recently received a grant from SWACO to purchase a densifier unit that flattens out the blocks of styrofoam, compresses the air out of them, making it so they can be recycled. And so they're going to be hosting a recycling drop-off collection event on December 30th at the municipal building. So that's going to be from 10 a.m. to noon, which I know is a very small window of time. Maybe you want to reach out to your friends or to your family to see if they have any styrofoam that they would like to recycle. Styrofoam takes a really, really long time to break down. It's like 95% air, but it can be recycled through specialized programs. And that is what Hilliard is doing for the local community. When you do take your styrofoam to Hilliard to be recycled, make sure it's free of tape and labels, and they only accept clean white styrofoam, not from food packaging. So they're not going to accept McDonald's food cups, egg cartons, anything that has a print or a color on it. And then they also do not take packaging peanuts at this time. Back when Dave said a few slides ago, encourage companies, write the company that is using still styrofoam packaging peanuts and ask them if they would be willing to switch to a more sustainable alternative. They make now packaging peanuts out of cornstarch, which dissolve in water and can be fully composted. All right, and this brings us to our next trivia question for the day. Got to keep you guys engaged on your toes here. All right, so on average, how much money does each Central Ohio resident spend on food that they throw away each year? I got my year cut off there on the poll question. Do you guys think it's $250, $375, or $500? How much money does the average resident in our region waste on buying food and throwing it away in a trash can? And 'tis that time of year, right, where we're all enjoying those special treats. We're gathering with our friends and our loved ones to have that great meal. And sometimes that extra food can be wasted. It doesn't have to be that way, though. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to avoid the food waste. So it looks like we have about 85% of folks in We're going to go ahead and share the results of the poll. The majority of folks, 75% of participants, said $500. The answer is actually $375, which is equal to about $1,500 for a family of 4. I don't know about you, but I certainly would like to have that $1,500 back, right? And so let me go ahead and move out of this poll. I'm not good at doing 2 things at once here, if you can't tell. So, you know, not only is it the food that gets wasted and ends up in the landfill, but it's also a matter of all the resources that went into growing that food to get it to the grocery store, then to get it to our plate. All those resources that went into that are also wasted, as well as the dollar value. So you may be surprised to know that 1 million pounds of food waste enters the Franklin County Sanitary Landfill every day. That is a staggering number to me, and we have an active role to reduce food waste in our community. So what can you do to help prevent food waste? It all starts with taking the steps to eat the food that you buy and to shop smarter, okay? And so when you go to the store, make a list and try to only buy the items on the list. Never go to the grocery store hungry, because we've all been there, and that doesn't lead to good outcomes. And if you work for someone or you have a big holiday party and there's a lot of food left over, try to find a food rescue group that could potentially pick up that food and deliver it to hungry members of our community. So Food Rescue US is one of the companies. It's a nonprofit that will help rescue food and get it to, you know, soup kitchens, YMCAs, and other locations in our community that are food insecure. SWACO recently developed the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative, and we launched the Save More Than Food campaign. This is really an awareness campaign focused on providing resources on how we can prevent, reduce, and recycle waste at our homes, our schools, and our businesses. One of the best resources, I think, on the website is the guesstimator tool. So this will help you prepare the correct amount of food for your get-together. So that way you're not making a lot of extra leftovers. Maybe you want to send everybody home with 1 plate of leftovers and that's it, and you don't want extra at your house. Check out the guesstimator to make sure you don't have excess food waste at your home. So there's some other quick tips available on the Save More Than Food website, which can be found at savemorethanfood.org. Another tip is to organize your fridge so that the items that need to be eaten are front and center. As someone who has a 19-year-old at home, put a sticky note on it that says, "Eat me first." Like, make it so they can't eat something else, right? And your freezer is your friends. So if you have leftovers after a holiday get together, consider putting the leftovers in the freezer and then pulling them out at a future date, not being committed to eating them within that next week or 2 before they spoil in the fridge. You can also use up your leftover scraps to make a delicious soup. So if you're interested in learning more about creative recipes for your leftovers, I encourage you to check out savemorethanfood.org. Not all food can be consumed, right? Sometimes, I mean, we're busy. We're humans. Sometimes food does spoil in the fridge, and it's past its prime, right? And so at that point, we might want to consider composting it. So we're not going to eat it, but is there a way that we could still divert it from the landfill and turn it into a beneficial resource for our community and environment? So there are a growing number of Central Ohio communities that have developed a compost drop-off program. So if you live in one of these communities, you might want to look into registering to participate in the food waste drop-off program. So there are 8 communities right now. We have Bexley, Dublin, Grandview Heights, Grove City, Hilliard, Upper Arlington, Westerville, and Worthington. And more communities are coming online with a drop-off program. So if your community wasn't listed there, It's just a matter of time before your community develops one. And so if you live in one of those communities, I encourage you to check out your community's website to see how you can get involved. For those who do not live in one of those communities, we still have other options for composting. Okay, there are services out there that will, you pay for the service, but they will pick up your scraps either from your business or your home. So we're really lucky to have 3 different service providers in Central Ohio. We have Go Zero, Compost Exchange, and Kids That Compost. You can see that each one does have a different business model. So I would encourage you to double check to see if you qualify to participate in their program and to learn more about their fee structure. Many of them are a bucket program where you get a 5-gallon bucket. You fill your scraps up, you either pick it up curbside at your house or you take it to a food waste drop-off location. And so this might be a good service for you to look more into to figure out a way to compost your food scraps. You can also compost in your backyard too. If you have the room and the space and the interest, that's always a possibility as well. So there's a lot of information that Dave and I have thrown at you, and I really don't want you to get overwhelmed. I know sometimes people can suffer from eco guilt, but every single change that you do does make a difference, no matter how small it is. The best way to usher in change is through having conversations with your friends and your family about your waste reduction journey and the things that you're doing to help lead a more sustainable future. So everything we have comes from the earth. Let's return our gratitude this holiday season by wasting less and recycling more. So for all your other questions for hard to recycle materials, maybe you have an old lawnmower in your garage or some old paint from the previous tenant in your home. You'd like to safely get rid of it, but you're not sure how to do that. I want you to check out this website. It's called recycleright.org. There are over 300 locations for you to safely compost, donate, or recycle hard to recycle materials, okay? And so if you're on the website, you're having a hard time finding your particular material, I encourage you to reach out to us. You can email us at info@swaco.org. You can give us a call Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and we will be happy to point you in the right direction. Most of the time, there is a way to divert your material from the landfill. You just need to know how to do it. So that concludes our presentation today. I'm now going to open it up to questions from the audience. So if you're sitting with something and you haven't typed it into the questions and chat box, I encourage you to do so now. And I'll go ahead and start answering those questions. I did have a question that came in last night from Sherry. Sherry asked, what about Tinsel? How can I recycle my Christmas tree if it has Tinsel on it? That is a really good question. So when it comes to composting our Christmas tree, we really want it to be free of any kind of plastic or metal or decorations. And Tinsel, unfortunately, would fall into that decoration category. And so it's really best to skip the Tinsel if you can. It makes, it's going to make a mess and then you're going to have to clean it up afterwards. But if you're committed to the Tinsel, you'll have to spend your time removing all those little bits of Tinsel prior to putting it out at the curb for it to be picked up and turned into mulch. So if you think about it, anything that we put into the compost stream, it doesn't necessarily get sorted and picked out. And so the end product of the compost or the mulch will have those little teeny bits of Tinsel, which is just like little plastics essentially. Those little plastics will end up in the final product of the compost or mulch. And we don't want that because we don't want to put that stuff in our landscaping and in our environment. So try your very, very best to remove as much Tinsel as you can. Trisha had a question today regarding wrapping paper for recycling. The most common wrapping paper that is covered in ink on one side, is that recyclable? Yes, that would be recyclable. So it's usually has a pattern on one side. On the other side, it's usually white. Maybe it has grids for helping you cut those straight lines, which I'm not very good at doing either. I appreciate those lines. That would be accepted for recycling in your curbside program or taken to a Swaco drop-off. It's the wrapping paper that has foil on it. It's really crinkly, or maybe glitter. That's the type of wrapping paper that's not accepted in the program. And then what about gift bags that seem kind of plasticky? So if it's a plastic gift bag, it's a no. That would go, and I would encourage you to reuse it if you can, or give it to someone else to reuse. But if it's a plastic gift bag, no, that's not accepted in the program. Only paper gift bags are accepted, and that even includes the paper handles. Like, you don't need to worry about taking off the paper handle. And then shirt boxes, can those be recycled? Yes, that's a type of cardboard. Those are absolutely accepted in the program. Can packaging bubble sheets be recycled at the grocery store for recycling bins? So I think what you're referring to by bubble sheets is maybe either bubble wrap, like little teeny bubbles, or even the Amazon bubblers that are the air pockets for shipping. If you pop the air out of those can also go back to the grocery store through their Bring Me Back location. So that includes the bubble sheets or bubble wrap, as well as the Amazon air pockets that they've been using for shipping. Just make sure to pop and remove the air so it doesn't take up as much space in those plastic film bags. And this is any plastic film that is flexible. So the rule of thumb when you're testing this at home, when you put your finger through the plastic film, does it stretch and bend? If it does, it's the type of film that the grocery stores and other retail stores want. It's all the same, and they can recycle it and turn it into things like picnic benches and play sets, okay? If it's a really crunchy type of plastic, it makes a lot of noise. I'm thinking about the plastic that maybe like your grapes or your lemons or limes would come in. It doesn't stretch. That type of plastic is not included in the retail store plastic film recycling program. So just the stretchable plastic film. Do we have to remove tape? That's a good question. From cardboard boxes in order to recycle the box? No, you do not. Tape and labels are A-OK to be left inside on your cardboard boxes. No big deal. What's going to happen is when all the paper goes to the paper pulp process, anything that's not cardboard or a paper fiber is going to rise to the top of this basically pulp slurry, and they're going to skim off the labels, the tape, the glue, anything that's not actually a fibrous material, and then discard that, and then everything else that's left in the paper slurry is pure paper. So one last step that you have to take. Megan asked a great question. If we adopted only one new habit from this presentation, what should it be to have the biggest impact on the holiday? Wow, I just think that's such an outstanding question. It's really hard. Dave, I'm going to look to you for your input on this too. I think it's really hard to narrow it down to one thing. But what I will say, and this is something that I try to practice myself, is to try to simplify the season. So I try to think about not buying as many tangible gifts. I try to give the gift of time or an experience. And so, and then just trying to reduce the amount of packaging and such that I use. So I always reuse my bags for holiday gift giving. I'm that friend that when I give my friend a gift, I'm like, can I have that bag back so I can reuse it? And they understand. They know I'm crazy lady about trash. And then, you know, if you're going to want to wrap something, to wrap it in a type of product that can be recycled, and to limit the product packaging too when you buy gifts. So those are my suggestions and the things that I think can help reduce the amount of waste you create and then recycle the waste that you do have. Dave, what do you think? What would you recommend to Megan?
I think you covered it. I kind of agree with what you had said. The other thing, Megan, is like, maybe making a list of these things that you want to do eventually, right? And just take one step at a time. That's one thing that we try to remind people is you're probably already doing something to be green, especially if you're watching, a webinar like this. So just maybe take one extra step. So maybe in the past you haven't thought about getting your friends or family like an experience, right, to one of the institutions in town. Maybe that's something you do. The other thing is, like, don't forget the New Year's is coming up, and you know what that means: New Year's resolutions. So you can just take it one step at a time. If I heard an expression where it's like, we don't need a few people doing everything. We need like most people doing a little bit, and we'll be so much further ahead.
Yeah, that is from Dave, that's a great quote. That's from the Zero Waste Chef, which I follow her on social media. She has so many great ideas for other simple switches that we can make to be more eco-friendly. So I highly encourage, if anyone who's interested in this topic, which you have to be here, the Zero Waste Chef, I encourage you to follow her on social media. She's got some brilliant ideas. Okay, Megan, I hope you feel inspired to continue to reduce waste and recycle more this holiday season. Remember, you don't have to do everything, right? Just a couple small little changes does really have a big impact on the planet. Kathleen asked a question about can rusty tin cans be recycled? Kathleen, that's a really great question. And since SWACO does not own and operate the recycling facility, that is actually Rumpke. That's the name of the company that operates the recycling facility. I will want to check with them on that question. I don't know exactly the answer to it, and believe it or not, it's a new question for me. So Kathleen, can I follow up with you after this webinar via email with an answer to that question? Unless Dave knows it.
I do not.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I'll get a confirmation from Rumpke Waste and Recycling. I want to say the answer is yes, but I really can't say that with 100% certainty, and I'd rather have the answer confirmed. Charmaine asked a question about, I have a full box of glass jars from candles that have been completely burned. Where can I recycle them? This is a great question, Charmaine, and unfortunately there's not an outlet for glass jars from candles, and the reason being that Rumpke only wants glass that is manufactured for food grade items. They know the type of glass that's used to make those, and glass for candles can come in all types of shapes and forms, and so they don't know the chemical components inside that glass, making it difficult for us to recycle the glass in candles. And so as much as you can, try to find a way to upcycle them, use them as vases. Otherwise, at this point in time, I don't know of anyone else that will accept them. I know there's a lot of free cycle pages out there where people maybe will look for stuff like that to upcycle into something new. I guess you could consider posting them on a free cycle page or like your local next door page for your community to see if anyone would have an interest in these glass jars. Otherwise, they do belong in the trash. Jane asked a question about clamshell containers. Can we recycle clamshells? No, clamshells are currently not accepted in the program in Franklin County. Reason being, there isn't currently a market for clamshell containers, meaning there's no buyer for that type of plastic. Without there being a stable buyer, Rumpke is not going to collect it, process it for it potentially not to be recycled in the end. And that's really how recycling works. It's very much a market-based business. There must be a demand for the product to justify the collection and the sorting of a commodity. And so right now, clamshells, take-out food containers, prescription pill bottles, cups, those types of plastics are not accepted in the program. If you are interested in learning more about how to recycle right in Franklin County, we will be hosting a webinar next Wednesday, December 15th at noon. We will cover the basics of, the do's and don'ts of what's accepted for recycling, what our recyclables go on to become here in Central Ohio, and how that impacts the local economy. You can sign up, you can register and sign up for the webinar on our website at swaco.org. All of our webinars are recorded, so if you cannot make that session, that's okay, just register for it, and the recording will be emailed to you 24 hours after the webinar for you to watch it at your convenience. All right, well, I think I've addressed everyone's questions for today. I want to thank everyone for joining us and for your attention. I hope you all feel inspired to continue to simplify the season, reducing your waste and recycling more. As a friendly reminder, after the session closes out, you will receive a request to complete a survey. It's 6 questions. It should take you less than 60 seconds to complete. We're always interested in hearing your input, your feedback, if you have comments for improvements, or you have other topics that you wish that SWACO would cover. We want to hear about them. We learn so much from you guys when we have these webinar sessions. And I want to thank everyone for your time today. Everyone, take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.